Well, there's not much of that going on right now. Welcome to another episode of the Motor City Metrics here at TigersMLReports.com. I am Rogelio Castillo. Alongside me, Uper, Mike, and Chris. I have not done I was just thinking about this. I've not done a show since late October on this channel. Is that right? Sounds right.
I think so, yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
You guys did one after they wrapped up the postseason.
Yeah. But there's going to be some changes on both Tiger Miner Report and this site. I apologize for lack of content on this site. I know since John unexpectedly passed away, we haven't really had a chance to really have a person to do content consistently in here, but that's going to change. There's some changes on the horizon, all good. But honestly, between traveling for work, I was out in Seattle. I just needed a mentally just spent. It was a long season, and I just did not. I honestly, the last few weeks I've been, prior to a week and a half ago, I just avoided baseball. Just needed a break, and so.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to pay attention to, honestly. I mean, there's been some signings, but it's not. It's been kind of a trickle.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad. I'm actually happy for it, honestly. It's because it just allows us to play catch up and everything. So hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and of course you can follow us on Blue Sky. We do have a Blue Sky account there, so all the respective following stuff you can follow on the bottom right hand screen there. So yeah, and pretty much other than that, hopefully everybody, like I said, everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Michigan beat Ohio State, so all is well in the world. And a game that no one saw coming. And I don't know how Missouri's doing, Mike, but how are the Tigers doing?
Yeah, they should be in the playoff, man. It's rough. They got smoked. If they beat South Carolina, they'd be 10-2 and they'd be in the playoff. But it is what it is.
No,
still heard about it.
Nah, I'm sorry, Mike. I will say this is what Elton was everybody's thinking. I'm ready for some talk baseball. Needs to wake his ass up. He's absolutely right.
I hear you, Elton.
Go ahead, Chris.
Winter meetings, man. The winter meetings are always what stir things up.
This is just the unfortunate way that baseball free agency is, and it typically does pick up right here in the next 2 weeks. Actually, probably the next 3 weeks, basically like up until a couple days before Christmas. And I don't know why it is. I don't know why they have to, spend the offseason doing whatever and then get together and meet to make actual trades when every other league, as soon as free agency opens, like there are people waiting on players' porches and camping out, they're hiding in trees and stuff. They it's the first second they're signing people. And in baseball, it's just like, we'll get to it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're coming up on it now. There's going to be a lot of stuff. I bet Juan Soto signs in the next, 5 to 10 days. And that's going to really kick things off.
Well, and with this year,
I mean, it's just. Oh, go ahead.
Well, the Tigers for so many off seasons here for the last half a decade or decade, the hot stove was something we had to look forward to because the season was so dreadful. This year it's been kind of nice just to kind of kick back after the Tigers got into the playoffs and had that wonderful ending, and it's just a different vibe, I think, moving forward.
Maybe, but I think that's added some more anticipation for the offseason. What is Scott Harris going to do? What isn't he going to do? I think that just based on the last couple off seasons, we don't know, especially with the surprise postseason run. So I get what you're saying, I think that's the exact reason why I'm extra anxious about this offseason to get started, is because I want to see what he's going to do. I don't know if he's going to, is he going to spend? It doesn't seem like it, but I need that to pass. I'm anxious as hell about it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. There's two schools of thought when it comes to Scott Harris here, and you're right there. I'm used to preparing for the Rule 5 draft. Absolutely, that's correct.
Nick Reyes, baby.
We don't have to talk about that anymore for a while, and I'm glad. But it is, as Elton is saying in here, when do you get our owner to spend on the Dodgers and Yankees are so top heavy? Smartly spend is the question. Now, there has been that discussion that the Tigers were going to spend. I mean, he got that question from Stoney at the end of the end of the season press conference. And I think what is going to happen here is Tyler kind of alluded here in the chat, everyone's waiting for Soto to sign. I think after that, it's just going to be a giant floodgate. And as far as where the Tigers are concerned, I've heard some people say that they have interest. They don't really have interest in Alex Brom, who is the third baseman for Philly, but Nolan Arenado as a Cody from Tigers Territory, another YouTube channel you can watch, or you can stick with us too. You can subscribe to both. We're cool with that. They have mentioned that it's a possibility, or even him playing first base. As far, and we can kick it off with how do we feel about Arenado? And honestly, I've said this a couple months ago. I like the idea of having him. I know some of the metrics are not sexy, but there's some metrics there at least that he could give the Tigers stability at third. I don't know why historically this franchise throughout time goes through gaps of time without having a third baseman, like a proper third baseman. You can think about after Travis Fryman was traded. I mean, they had Gabe Alvarez, friend of the show, Gabe Alvarez, who's now the manager in Toledo. Oh, by the way, congratulations to him. We haven't had a chance to talk about him. He got promoted to Toledo. Then it was Brandon Inge for a while. Then you had Nick Castellanos. You had Miguel Cabrera for a minute there. Then Nick Castellanos. But then there's just this times where, and this even goes back to the 80s where Sparky traded Howard Johnson, and then they went through Chris what's the guy's name? Patero, Darnell Coles, Barbaro Garbe. They just a slew of third basemen that never were able to get it done. And so I think the Tigers in this trade, I like the idea of Arenado at third because I think
Chris Brown.
Chris Brown. Oh yeah, that.
I thought he was more of a first baseman.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Oh, I thought he was a third baseman, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Was it the guy, the Chris Brown that used to play for the A's too? That Chris Brown?
He played for the Padres,
Giants, and Padres.
Okay.
Anyway,
but yeah,
he was no good.
Not Sequador.
You got the better Chris
Travis
Brown.
Fryman was shortstop, third baseman, but other than that, not a whole lot to write home about.
Yeah, but I honestly wouldn't mind that trade. If that gives them an opportunity to have a third baseman with a high fielding percentage, and also the fact the Rockies are still paying on his deal, and I think the Rockies are going to continue to pay. In terms of even I know Alex Bregman is a possibility. I just don't see that happening because the Tigers are looking to get marginally better. Are they going to make a big splash of free agency? I just don't see that. I just don't. It just doesn't strike me.
You see trading for a future Hall of Famer as being a big splash?
I meant I meant signing a free agent.
Yeah, you're right. I know.
Yeah.
I just think it's asinine that there's talk about Nolan Arenado going to first base, though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's willing to play first base. That's what he does best now. At this point in his career, he hit what, 9 home runs this year, I think it was.
16.
16.
Okay. But the point is his power had just completely dropped off. To take away his best, the thing he's best at, third base, would just be ridiculous. So I don't really get all that. But I guess my big issue with Nolan Arenado, it's not so much an issue. It's just I can't get over this feeling, and it's kind of why I feel weird about Alex Bregman too. I'm tired of getting players past their prime and just watching them wither away. And I'm worried that getting Nolan Arenado in a situation like this, we're just going to end up having him for a couple of years. And the last couple of years are going to be just awful. And maybe because he's such a good defensive player, the drop-off isn't as significant. And maybe it's not fair for me to think like that. But, I can't shake that feeling that it's we're going to watch another star wither away to nothingness. Javi never did anything for us, but I kind of still put him in that category. And watching Miggy play the last couple of years was rough. So it feels more of the same.
And it's very interesting you bring that up because that's kind of where I was going to go. Since defense is the calling card, right? I've obviously been aware of Nolan Arenado for years, as we all are. I guess the years just jump by. I didn't realize he was as old as he is. How many guys past the age of 35 win a Gold Glove? At some point, the defense probably starts to wane a little bit too. Maybe it won't, but most guys it does. And you're getting this guy coming off a very poor offensive year, 2 of the last 3, I believe. That's a lot to count on that he's going to really change the situation. Now, Chris wrote the article. We're going to talk about it later. I thought that price made a lot of sense, especially if St. Louis picks up a lot of it. Then I wouldn't be so opposed to it, but I have a lot of trepidations about that whole idea of Arenado.
Yeah, so they'd be getting him for his age, 34, 35, and 36 seasons. He's still a very good defender, as you guys touched on, and that,
Sure.
And he's a third baseman and right-handed bat. They need all that, but it doesn't feel like it's the right fit. He feels more like kind of like when the Tigers signed Torrey Hunter, like they needed a right fielder and a right-handed bat and a veteran presence, and that was perfect. But they weren't going to rely on Torrey Hunter to drive the offense. He was just another piece. And the Tigers really do need to find somebody who's kind of that heart of the order masher. And I just don't think he fits the bill there. He's a quality player. He would make the team better, I think, but it's not exactly what they need. So I don't know. And as you said, I don't think it would cost them much because they're basically doing the Cardinals a favor by taking his salary away. But and if you're going to get better for not a whole lot of cost, that's not a bad thing. But I think the Tigers could do better.
I think the Tigers can do better too, but the problem is can they do better? I mean, in terms of pulling the trigger on, we've heard about that the Tigers waited to the last possible minute trade deadline to get the pieces they got from the Dodgers before, and so the rest of the market, I think they have to get creative. Now, if they do something where it's out of nowhere and they get better, then we can say, oh well, great move by Harris. But the reason why I like Arenado is, as far as giving them a 2-year, it allows them to have 2 years of solid stability at third base, or so, possibly 3 years. And it's a risk, especially if the Tigers are going to be working on developing a third baseman. And that's where, and Stan brings up finding a AAA third baseman's ready to play, but Elton also brings up a good point too. Is that supposed to be Jace Young? Young's not a third base.
Did Ralph mute himself?
Oh, did I do that? Oh, sorry. There we go.
Off stage, buddy.
I don't like to do that. I was trying to play around with this, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to play around with this anymore.
Jace Young is working the board.
Yeah, Young isn't a third baseman. He is a second baseman, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. The Tigers tried, and they also have they have Hyu Lee, who could potentially play third. To me, it's just a stopgap measure because they don't have anybody in the big league level that can play third base. So if you're going to go the Arenado route, then bring Jordan Walker with you. That'd be cool. Like I know that with the Cardinals are going through a whole a possibility of like getting rid of some people. While you're at it, hey, do yourself a favor. Get a guy like that. So.
I did want to one other thing, and something I've been thinking about is if the Tigers were to acquire Nolan Arenado, they would have one of the 3 most expensive left sides of the infield in baseball.
With the Arenado bias.
Yeah.
Well,
so there you go.
Well, yeah. Then does Harris really want that reputation? The answer is probably not. Yeah. Veteran presence. I mean, Connor brings up good points. High contact ability. That's what I mean. Look, this team needs a veteran presence right now. As far as Winfield Perez playing short, no. I'm sorry, Stan. That ship sailed a long time ago. He just doesn't. He has too much of the yips, and the Tigers have tried and tried and tried. And if they would have, I think if this year the opportunity presented itself this year to have him play in the infield, it would have. But he was actually a plus. I think it was his plus defender in the outfield too. So, that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean he started as a shortstop and a third baseman, and as the years went on, he got closer and closer and closer to first base, and then as far away from first base as possible. Now it's I wouldn't put it past them to try, because that would make him extremely valuable if he could play some infield. But we even saw it. The yips would go away for times in the minors, and then they would come back from out of nowhere. He'd be fine for 30 games, and then like 4 errors in a 3-day span, and that was it. And I don't know that it's the thing, right? Nobody knows why it happens or where it comes from. And like I said, it's they can try it in spring training, and if he doesn't make any mistakes, they could try it in the big leagues. But at some point, I think it's going to come back, unfortunately.
And it doesn't happen in the outfield, which is the weirdest thing, right? That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Of course, the biggest thing in the outfield, he's got to quit running into Parker Meadows. So stop that.
Yeah.
If they can get over that, he can play out there too.
And that feels like a reps thing too, right? Like at some point, you're like Badu ran into everybody in his first season, and then he ran into fewer people as time went on.
Yeah.
No, the biggest problem he had, Stan, is in terms of catching the ball. Even sometimes he had problems with that too. But the biggest problem was the range. I mean, on a routine play, he couldn't make a throw to first. I mean, it was absolutely brutal to the capital B.
Yeah, it would be like a typical 40, 50 foot throw from second base, shallow right field, and it would sail 15 feet wide of the first baseman, just for no reason, just completely in his head. But yeah, like everything else, his hands are okay. He gets, he's got solid lateral agility and all that stuff. But so it's worth a try, but I wouldn't count on him to be an infielder at all.
Yeah, I like the idea that they had settled him in right field, and he held his own. I really think he held his own. As far as so I'm interested in hearing. So with Chris's article, you can find over at TigersReport.com. We'll talk about that here in a second. But if anybody has some trade scenarios that would make sense, that are logical, love to hear it on the chat. If you're watching us right now, and if you're at home, of course, you can always email us at TigersMLReport@gmail.com. So I'd love to hear some. I think we got some really good feedback too, Chris, on somebody made a comment about your article on Blue Sky. So
nice. I have. Well, I know Jerry commented, but I haven't.
Yeah.
I was out and about, but yeah. I mean, essentially, I was just trying to come up with mostly third base options, like somebody was mentioning earlier, finding that third baseman via trade, or even getting that trading prospects for prospects, as it were.
So
but, they're fake trades, so you throw them out there and then they don't happen.
Mike, what do you think of Jordan Walker? I mean, you're a Cardinal guy, so I was just kind of curious.
I don't feel like I'm as high on him as a lot of people are. Some people in St. Louis look at him as untouchable. Just the fact that he regressed too is it's worrisome. I mean, he just regressed pretty much in every way from 23 to 24. So it's just not, I mean, sophomore slump's to sophomore slump, but I'm never a fan of acquiring somebody this early in their career that just hasn't shown consistency.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, and he hasn't really excelled above AA. He did have a 116 WRC plus as a rookie with the Cardinals, which is well, that's exciting. But his defense was so bad that he was still like a zero value player. And I don't know. I feel like there's something in there, but yeah, I don't know. If he feels a little bit like St. Louis's Torkelson at this point, like they don't want to give up on him yet, but they also don't really trust him for their future.
Yeah, I think before this year, I think Cardinals fans would have fought anyone who even brought up the idea of getting rid of him. So things do change pretty quickly there.
Oh, I think he found something. I think there's something to be said that he found a little bit of something towards the end of the season, but it could have been just that. I don't know. The reason why, because Walker's only like 21, 20, I think 21, 22, so he's still relatively young. So it's not like it's not all for naught. But I know he hit pretty well down in Memphis towards the tail part of the season, and he's a right-handed bat, I believe. Down in Memphis. The reason why is because quite frankly, Tigers lack kind of power right now, and they're like we when we were doing our power series, Chris, and you guys witnessed this on the Tiger Minor League Report. If you look at the power right now, currently right now above AA, there's not much. There is not a lot of power, and I thought there would be a chance for the Tigers, like just with Walker alone, just giving him some sort of a pedigree of power. But I mean, he's a guy who also can hit for average too. But again, that's a scenario that I don't think is going to happen. But I mean, if you're looking at another possibility, the Blue Jays, for example, Like somebody was talking about, we've talked about this a couple times too. It like, the Blue Jays trading possibly Bo Bichette because he's having a down year. That would be, outstanding. But I don't know, like just Toronto's also in the mix for Soto, which every year Toronto's in the mix for everybody and they never get anybody. So, but Connor mentioned Suarez, and Chris, you mentioned him in the article, correct?
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy that I thought was going to be a free agent, and I kept talking about that, and then I didn't realize he had the Diamondbacks had a team option. And yeah, he had a really uneven year. He was one of the worst players in baseball for the first 3 months, and then he was one of the best players in baseball for the final 3 months. And he's 34, but he's consistently hit for power. He's grades out somewhere roughly average on defense, depending on what you look at. He's a plus to outs above average, but a minus to defensive run save. And yeah, for 1 year and $15 million, that could buy you some time to kick it down the road, kick the can down the road or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I thought he would be a little bit more expensive than Arenado because he could be a 3-4 win player. And that's, to get that on the free market, it's more like $25-30 million than 15. But, if the Diamondbacks have Jordan Lawler and who's it, Perdomo, I think they're playing shortstop. So they could theoretically dangle him, but I don't know. I mean, that's coming up with these trade ideas is it's fun, but you never really know who's available. I don't know, maybe the Diamondbacks are looking at maybe losing Christian Walker. Maybe they don't want to lose another 30 home runs from their lineup. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I mentioned the Jays too is because they have a couple prospects like Alex De Jesus, Addison Bergner, who is a left-handed bat, so it doesn't really matter. But a guy who has been bouncing around a little bit between the outfield and third base. Of course, they just picked up Charles McAdoo from Pittsburgh. I really like that guy a lot, man. That was a good trade for Toronto too. That gives us a more prospect depth. And Toronto's used to getting some, always breeding out infielders, and he's a right-handed bat. But anyway, as far as like other trade possibilities too, the reason why Brome, I don't know what Brome is younger, but again, the asking price for him, Dombrowski is going to want quite a bit, and that's where. And the Tigers have already traded with Philly twice?
Yeah,
since Harris has been here. So
yeah, we talked about Alec Boehm, I think, on the show before because that was that came up, and to me, he's kind of Arenado without the defense. Like it's bat first, like contact first profile. He doesn't hit for a ton of power, and he controls the zone, but not to the point where he walks a lot. He just doesn't strike out a lot. And I don't know how much of the ceiling is there. He's a big guy, but he's never hit for a ton of power. And I get, that would be probably more expensive than Arenado. So I don't know. I mean, it technically would fit. And then people talk about there's some makeup issues there, possibly. I haven't heard or dug into that, but who knows?
Yeah, the idea too of the Angels too. Somebody mentioned it was Tyler mentioned Luis Rifanito as a possibility, but yeah, we don't. The Angels have been the most active. It's strange to think that the Angels have been the most outside of the Dodgers.
Yeah,
both LA markets have been very active this offseason so far. So that to me is intriguing to me because the Angels have, in terms of their development, they just gone through they have a new GM, I believe. So we don't know what they're coming. Again, a team that still hasn't lost 100 games. That blows my mind. Never in their franchise history have they lost 100 games. Came this close this year. And maybe that scared them. I don't know. But the fact that they had a worse record than the A's did blew me away.
Yeah, that's hard to believe.
Yeah.
I would say, and people have been mentioning a bunch of stuff in the chat. There was the Luis Castillo kind of rumors, and I don't know if it's a rumor so much. Like Kylie McDaniel of ESPN said he would like to see Castillo come to the Tigers, and he thought it wouldn't cost him that much because he's got 3 years left at like $72 million, so it's pretty close to market value. That would be interesting. I see other people. Somebody asked if the Tigers are players for Corbin Burns. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be shopping in that top tier. Blake Snell's already gone. I don't think Corbin Burns. I don't think Max Fried. But one thing that is interesting, and maybe the Tigers might be more motivated to make a deal now, is that we've seen kind of that like third or second and a half tier some guys have already signed there. Frankie Montas signed a 2-year deal. Matt Boyd signed a 2-year deal, and they're at a lot more money than people expected. So, and we think that's where the Tigers are going to be shopping. So we may see a deal like that coming soon. I don't know.
It was really surprising to see Boyd push $30 million. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, Chicago has the money, obviously. Who cares? But still, kudos to Matt Boyd's agent. That guy, he earned his cash there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I mean, I was just gonna say sometimes the pitching, they're just paying him. He had a good season last year. I mean, he didn't play that much, but if you're just hoping he can even replicate a little bit of that, I get it. Pitching's a premium, man. 2 years. I mean, that's a good. I look at that as a decent deal for the team because if it doesn't work out, you can trade it.
Just like Kenta Maeda.
Well, I mean, there's clearly something about Matthew Boyd that teams really like, right? You know, Tigers signed him, and then San Francisco signed him, and Seattle signed him, and then Tigers signed him again. And now, you know, Cleveland brought him in, and now the Cubs are going after him. The main thing that would bother me is that he hasn't had a full starter's workload since 2019. Like, he made every start in 2020, but that was the shortened season. And since then, it's been injury and ineffectiveness. And I'd just be worried, like, can you really count on him for 150 innings next year? I'd be shocked if he goes more than like 110.
I was going to say, I don't think you can count on 100.
Yeah. So, again, like, there's stuff there. And the Cubs hired, was it Tyler Zombro? He's from Tread Athletics, I believe, which is like kind of the Midwest driveline mechanics. They have a lot of fun videos. They've like, you know, come up with new pitch names, which is fun. You got the kick changeup, and you got the death ball, which Alex Lang throws. So maybe they see some things that they can improve there, but I still don't think, like, even your best case scenario, you're not getting more than like 3.5 WAR out of Matthew Boyd, which, I mean, that would be a great deal for what, 17 million, but I just don't see that possible.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at the second tier pitchers to a guy like who I like a lot is Nick Pivetta, the starter for Boston, who can just eat innings. I think the Tigers, the goal is just to get a guy that can pitch 150 innings at minimum, because they're not going to do the great experiment again of 2024 again. They're going to want starters who can throw. And even if you look at their depth coming back right now with Sawyer Gibson Long, there's no guarantees coming back from Tommy John. If the Tigers, I don't know if they signed Wilmer. Did they re-sign Wilmer Flores yet?
Not yet. No sign of Flores or Leonard yet. Just Vanasco.
Yeah. So, you know, the Walker Buehler idea is fine, and I know that that's been an idea floated out there since since the middle of the year, it seems like. But I that would be great. I love to see that happen because he has some familiarity with people who've worked in the organization, probably like Gabe Rivas, what have you. Shane Beaver is a guy who I've wanted to, like, Shane Beaver would be an awesome candidate for a bounce back, and working with the three-headed monster of Lund, Nieves, and Federer, you can never, you know, that you can definitely explore some possibilities with that.
Yeah, the only problem with Bieber is that he's probably not going to pitch until July or August. He had Tommy John in April, so it's usually more than a year. And I like that would be one of those ones where I'm pretty sure you'd have to sign him to a 2-year deal, and you're just not going to get much that first year. I'm not opposed to it. You know, he's a Cy Young winner, although it was 2020, wasn't it? But yeah, very good pitcher and a lot of promise there. So he wouldn't be my main target.
I'm sorry. I really like Nate Eovaldi. I mean, he's a little long in the tooth, but boy, that guy's a competitor. He's got great stuff. Gets the job done most years. That's the kind of the guy I'd love to see, that if they're going to go the veteran route. But let's face it, it sounds like we all pretty much agree they're going to be shopping at Target, not at, you know, Bergdorf's in New York City.
Well, Bergdorf's, what the hell? I don't know what the hell Bergdorf's is.
They're at Nordstrom.
It's a store we don't go to.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you go, Uper. That's all I don't know. And Dan brings up a good point too. It is interesting the Tigers haven't made any moves, because you would be correct, Dan. They were, and Chris and I were talking about this offline. The Tigers were pretty aggressive early on the last 2 off seasons, and they haven't made not even a fart in the wind at this point. It's just like they haven't really outside of signing Ricky Nolasco, that's it. There hasn't been a lot of movement. There hasn't been a lot of anything. And it's weird. To me, it's a little weird, but at the same time, perhaps they're getting some of their ducks in a row ready to go. And come next week when they get to Dallas, they're just going to be I don't know. Canna and Madea were acquired last year. So early on in November, you're absolutely right. And so I just think that if that's why, honestly, like I know Uper messaged us last week and Chad goes, "We're going to do a podcast this week." And I was like, I literally had nothing to say about what? Because the Tigers haven't done jack shit. They haven't done jack shit. And I know Elton was in here earlier going, I'm losing my patience with it a little bit. I don't blame him. This has been a very quiet, but it's been across baseball outside of if you're a Dodgers fan or an Angels fan, or for that matter, a Blue Jays fan desperately holding on to they're going to do something again and then get screwed over because that's how it works.
So, I'm just going to say, maybe it's because I can't imagine Canna and Maeda had a long line of suitors. Maybe they're actually going after guys that people actually want. And those guys, it's not all on Tigers. The players got to sign the contract too. I just think that they're going after guys that are weighing their options and actually are wanted by other teams. I'm not saying Canna and Maeda are complete bums. Like, obviously they had a little bit of a market, but you saw what happened to them. So I don't know. It seems like that's a good sign, if anything, to me, that they haven't made a move yet. Because any move they would have made, I'd expect that level of a move to have been made.
Yeah, and it's possible that they learned from last year that I think we talked about this before, that every offseason is different, and sometimes teams go out there and want to get their guys immediately and then kind of set the market, and other times they want to sit back and let players fall through the cracks and get them for cheaper if they think they can. If they don't feel like they need, like Jordan Montgomery last year, right? Didn't he wait until February to sign?
Yep.
It didn't work out great, but you know what I mean? Like you can kind of play a game of chicken at times. And you look, Canna was the first move they made early November, traded for him, and then Maeda was the first signing. And then they signed, I think, Chafin and Shelby Miller a little bit later, and Jack Flaherty right before Christmas. I guess Shelby Miller was after Jack Flaherty, but Chafin was, I'm looking, December 12th. Flaherty was December 20th, and Miller was December 22nd. So we're right in that period where these signings happen, and they're going to happen, I think. I just, I don't know. They could have just altered course because of the way it worked out last year. That they jumped out early, and the guys they went on early they didn't work out. So maybe they're like, maybe we could just wait for the guys to follow us.
Yeah, they have to set a trap for third base. I like that.
Yeah, it made me chuckle.
We need somebody who can take the golden at bat.
The golden at bat.
That's what they gotta sign. Whoever is going to be that guy.
Speaking of, let's dive into that stupid rule. We'll readjust this. We'll get back to the trade discussion here in a second. But Rob Manfield has discussed a golden bat rule, which is essentially you can use a player at any time during the game. And of course, Mike Francesca, the New York, the guy from New York that was part of with Mad Dog Caruso, said, "You would never watch baseball again." Which to my reply is, "I don't care, dude. You're from it's the obsession with that guy and Caruso is, I'll never understand it. I'm not a New York thing, so anyway, that rule is asinine. Do yourself a favor, get rid of the blackouts, make baseball more visible for people. That's what people want. People want to watch a game. I'm sure Uper, who lives in Iowa, who can't watch the Royals, can't watch the Cubs, can't watch the Rockies, right?
No, we got the Rockies. Thanks.
Oh, okay. So you can watch the Rockies.
I wish the Rockies were on the list. No.
So you can't watch the Royals. You can't watch the Cubs. Even though,
Twins.
Even though you're the damn AAA affiliate of the Cubs, you cannot watch the Cubs.
That's right.
It makes no sense. You're in Iowa, Uper, a state that would love a professional sports team outside of the Iowa Barnstormers, Arena Football.
No Brewers here either.
No Brewers. What?
No Cardinals.
So you have Wisconsin's so far away.
I don't know if I've ever met a Brewers fan here. There might be one somewhere.
I don't understand.
Quad Cities.
I don't understand it. I don't understand that at all. Why don't you get rid of those stupid asinine blackout rules instead of this golden bat thing? Are you just doing this because you're bored, Rob Manfred? Like, I honestly do not know.
Sometimes I just wonder if Rob Manfred feels that his job is to occasionally float these things and see what the public says, because maybe a couple owners have a bug up their ass about it and think it's a great idea. I don't know. But the craziest thing is other than a couple of owners, I'd like to know who wants this. Have you heard of anybody who wants this?
But I mean, you get the thought process, right? Like the idea is, and I'm not saying I support this, but I get this side of it, okay? In all of the 3 other major sports, in big moments, you are able to put the ball, puck, whatever, in the hands of your best player and rely on them. In baseball, you have Zach McKinstry taking a bottom of the 9th at bat, which bad example because he was clutch this year. I shouldn't do that. You got Javi Baez in there as a defensive replacement. Oh God, it went to extra innings. Now in the 10th inning, Javi Baez is batting with 2 outs, bases loaded. Instead, it's like, wouldn't you much rather see Riley Green at bat? Wouldn't you rather see Kerry Carpenter down by 2, bases loaded, down by 3, chance at a grand slam? That's the idea behind it. And I'm only bringing this up because it's not really something that I ever thought about or realized, that baseball is actually the only sport where that is the case. However, I think that this just shows how out of touch Rob Manfred is. It doesn't make any sense because I feel like that's what makes baseball great, is because Zach McKinstry can be the one that is the hero. It's not always, it's not LeBron shoved down your throats, it's these unlikely heroes. It's more likely going to happen in baseball. And those are the stories that I love, that I feel like a lot of baseball fans love. So I understand where he's coming from, but it just feels completely tone deaf, and it just feels like he's more out of touch with baseball than we realize.
There's just so many weird things. I mean, you could potentially have Shohei Ohtani, right? Make an out and just tell him, you know what? Stay in the box.
Yeah.
Give you a second try here, back to back. So you're going to have Shohei bat twice in a row or something. It's just nuts. And, I here's the thing. I'm 55 years old, right? I'll admit how old I am. I'm ancient. I've been a fairly serious fan since I was 8 years old. I started watching when I was 6. And I think once you become the status of a fairly serious fan, a lot of other serious fans. That's just who you talk to about the game, right? We all know people who are, follow it just as closely as we do. In all those years, I have heard in the past people talk about a pitch clock. That comes up now and then to speed things along. I, heard about fixing the runner's interference rule because everybody hated it so much. You hear serious fans talk about that. Some of the other rules that have changed, you've heard about shortening games. That's where the extra inning thing came from. All those things have been debated. I have never once heard anybody bring up something close to this. Let's let somebody pull someone out of the batting order and parachute them in to the plate for a big at bat late in the game. I've never heard that from people who watch the game closely and who love it. It's just so out there, and it's just not even close to anything the sport has been about for all these years.
And maybe that's what we're missing is, yeah, you're right. Baseball people, I'm not asking for that. I mean, it's something that maybe general public would, baseball has been trying forever to try to get new people in. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. It's right. Just, this has brought up a lot of things that I've never really thought about baseball, but they're always trying to get not baseball people to continue to watch baseball, but people who don't watch baseball or care a little more. So maybe that's why you haven't heard it, is because those voices don't even exist in baseball yet. I'm not trying to be a dick.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just trying.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, all the rule changes have been either to shorten games or produce more offense, right? And that's the whole idea behind this, is the idea that you could get more offense. And it's taken from banana ball, basically. I think the Savannah Bananas did this. Any team, any player on the team could pinch hit whenever they wanted. And would I like Miguel Cabrera to have hit? I guess he wasn't even on the team, but say in 2006, it's Miguel Cabrera with the final at bat in the World Series instead of Brandon Inge. I would have taken that. Of course, Miguel Cabrera had the final at bat in 2012 World Series and struck out, so maybe it doesn't matter. But yeah, I don't know. It to me, it's actually not like a bridge that far from the ghost runner on second base. I mean, that is completely out there, and they just did it anyway. But this one I don't see happening. Just it is. I think for a lot of people, it's too much. For me, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think it would be fun. Maybe they should do it in spring training just for fun. But of course, nobody stays in there in spring training anyway. So it doesn't
technologically, we're probably only a decade away from alkaline hologram in there.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just put him in there.
Put Brooks Robinson in for third base replacement. There you go. I mean,
well,
we're at it. I mean, it's there's some people in here. Like, for example, Dan mentioned that he lives in Indiana. He can't watch the Tigers, Cubs, or White Sox or the Reds. Who was it? Satya saying he lives in Illinois, Cubs, White Sox, and Cardinals. I mean, to me, you know how you address the game? By letting people watch the damn game. What a premise, right? That's a concept right there. That right there should be baseball's sole focus. Instead of these, like, that's, for example, the NBA Cup right now, which is kind of like the in-season tournament. It is a little weird, but I've been paying attention because the Pistons have actually been doing pretty well with it.
Dude, I was at the game last night.
They lost the game. They lost, because they can't defend. They can't defend the three at all.
The Bucks shot like 70% for the game.
Yeah,
literally 70%.
I started watching Michigan, Wisconsin, which was a much better result. But go ahead, Chris.
Well, that's like baseball is an old game for old people. We know our average audience listener is like 71. It's not that far off. I don't think it's 55 plus or something like that. But they, baseball, you do have to do things to try to attract younger people somehow. I don't know if this is it, and I would go as far as to say this ain't it. But I don't know. Like, I'm not opposed to trying new things, and I like really crazy stuff though. Like, I've always advocated for the moat instead of the warning track, or various sand traps in the outfield. I had an idea that I tweeted about the other day. I probably talked about it on the show before too, but change games to 7 innings, 7-inning games, except 6 of the innings you have to get 4 outs, and then one of the first 6 innings you roll a dice before games, a big cartoon dice like from that old what was that old game show with Wink Martindale? High rollers.
Yeah, I think it was high rollers. Yeah, late 70s, early 80s. Yeah,
a big fuzzy dice. Somebody goes out there like the first pitch, they roll it 1 through 6, whatever that lands on. That's the inning where you only have to get 3 outs. The rest of them you have to get 4. I feel like that would lead to more runs probably, and it'd still be 27-out game. But they'll never do that because it's crazy. But I don't know. I'm not opposed to trying crazy things. It's just you want to try them out in a different league first.
Have you ever played Mario Baseball? It sounds like all of those things are in Mario Baseball.
That's true. There are dice rolls in Mario Baseball, aren't there?
Yeah. I think all that is.
Well,
traps in the outfield.
Honestly, like, I wouldn't mind. Like, they're talking about making. They announced that there's going to be a women's league coming out. I think next year. So that's going to be a different take on things. I don't mind trying new things. I really don't. I sound like a curmudgeon, but I mean, outside of I think our audience is young and diverse too, to a certain extent. And I think that the one thing, yes, my wife would say it's absolutely correct. This sounds like a lot like basketball. And
strikeouts. That's what it is. You can get somebody to strike out the pitcher or the bat.
That's Mike. That's brilliant right there. You know why? Because a lot of players like talking crap anyways. They do. They talk crap. I mean, if you had another Carlos Guillen versus Jared Weaver situation 2.0, that, to me, that's the stuff you remember. This right here with Ian Kinsler doing this, that's the stuff you still remember now. And to me, or like Chris Sale cutting up the jerseys, stuff like that. The crazy shit. People like that. That to me would be ideal. Like I love to see a good strike out, like a guy who just like literally like you can have some fun with it to a certain extent, but it would be about balls and strikes. Like a guy, you always see a guy always grabbing his, grabbing his junk after he strikes out somebody because it's like, yeah, screw you. Players love talking smack, and
Just pay him a little more for it.
Yeah, I mean, like Nolan Ryan used to throw at people's heads all the time. Pedro Martinez was a headhunter.
Sure.
Bob Gibson, yeah, that
Gibson,
used to be part of the game.
Cage matches. There we go.
Yeah, I'm all for all sorts of crazy stuff, but I don't think it'll happen.
The moat in the outfield. You must like the steeplechase in track and field too.
Who doesn't love the steeplechase?
I love the steeplechase.
Nobody likes somebody clear the moat. You want to see the person fall in the moat.
Yeah, I've never seen a
waterlogged baseball
race. I've never seen a steeplechase like in all the years of watching the Olympics. I've never seen it.
Oh, it's awesome.
Is they still do it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure.
Oh. Yeah, bring it back. Yeah, Detroit Degenerate says, Euclid's charging them out. I forgot about that. Throwing the helmet, Rick
Porcello put him down.
Yeah.
Who
was it? Remember Kyle Farnsworth when he was he took somebody down with like a judo kick, or Dave Rosemont actually in 1983 injured his against the Twins. It was 82.
Basically wrecked his career.
Farnsworth was like the Goldberg spear or whatever. I thought he really like shouldered somebody down on the ground.
And ended up having a UFC career out of it. Fun fact. Yeah. So, and by the way, Kyle, I don't know if you guys have seen Kyle Farnsworth recently. He's ripped. Yeah, Farnsworth did spear somebody. But all jokes aside, I just does seem like a little out of touch. I understand that maybe he's just trying to stir the pot because everything's really quiet right now with baseball. I mean, we have Howard Dean. I didn't know Howard Dean Boris.
Oh.
It comes up. It's funny. It's like Howard Dean Boris. I didn't know he had a middle name, but for now on, Scott Boris is going to be Scott Dean Boris.
I like it.
Sounds like a boy band, or not boy band, but it just sounds like a TV show. Yeah, serial killer. Scott Dean Boris. So yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of things that can be done here in the next couple. Brick killed a guy. So the other thing I wanted to address too is you're talking about back end. Speaking of like back end deals, and Deadly Ninja Bees mentioned this too. That avoiding this, that Blake Snell deal is $52 million up front and another $66 million deferred through 2046. So is the fourth 9-figure sign the Dodgers had done over the last year. So Yamamoto, Ohtani, and Glasnow. So really
does this ruin Bobby Bonilla Day? Takes away from the fun of that.
Yeah, it does take away. Their deferred pay, by the way, with that makes it over at $1 billion in deferred payments.
For the Ohtani one?
No, with this latest deal, their deferred payments now top $1 billion to 7 different players.
I see.
Yeah, with the Tommy Edelman deal as well.
More and more players are doing it. I mean, Arenado's got deferred money going to him until 2041. More and more players are doing it. I'm surprised. I mean, it makes sense to me. You're going to have some income for the rest of your life. A lot of these guys are retired in their mid 30s, and unless they've invested their money, they're going to, things might go south pretty quickly. So it's nice to have that continual income coming down, and it makes sense for the team for, luxury tax purposes. The one thing I'm curious to see, and we haven't seen yet, people keep talking about signing Verlander. So, like I was thinking, someone like Verlander, you could sign to like a 2-year, $60 million deal, right? With $48 million deferred over the next 8 years. So basically, you're signing $6 million a year, but you're getting him. He's getting $60 million out of it. You don't have to. That's probably what he wants anyway, right? $30 million a year or something crazy like that. But you don't see it necessarily with these old guys where you could just kind of send them off into the sunset with a big expensive deal, but it actually is spread out over 10, 12 years. I don't think we've seen that yet. Something they could do. I don't know if the Tigers are into it, but I think we're going to see more and more of it.
Yeah. And I mean,
should they do something about it? Is it not just like a cap loophole?
I mean, every team can do it. So I don't. just because the Dodgers are the ones doing it doesn't mean. I mean, the Nationals were the first team to do it, really, with the Scherzer contract,
Scherzer,
and
right?
then it's there's no reason other teams can't do it other than they just don't feel. I don't know. They feel like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to have those long-term commitments. It'll make it harder to sell a team or something. But I don't know. I mean, I can't think of any reason to.
It'd have to be collectively bargained.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it would. It just seems kind of crazy. It's just why even pretend that? I mean, I know there's no cap, but like, I don't know. It just seems like it directly benefits the rich teams more so. It feels like the only thing stopping them is luxury. You know, I don't know. Maybe not. I'm thinking out loud here. I'm sorry.
Like, I think Ohtani is a very special case where he's taken what is like $68 million deferred every year. Like the absurd. He's like, yeah, I'm going to sign $70 million and only get $2 million a year. That seems kind of ridiculous. Like, I could see them putting in a rule that you can't defer more than half the annual average value of it or something like that, just to avoid situations like that. But like you said, it's up to the players union, and if they're cool with it, then I don't think that they can outlaw it in any way.
You know, it's interesting too about the deal that we haven't usually. I remember hearing about this when Kevin Brown signed with the Dodgers, where he had the private plane at any time.
Yeah.
With Blake Snell, he gets a hotel suite on road trips, so he doesn't. You know, he doesn't get the normal accommodations. Or if he gets traded, he receive a $5 million assignment bonus payable by the acquiring team.
Yeah, that's like a little sweetener to kind of add to your no trade. Well, and you got a 50 million plus signing bonus, right? That's the other. Yeah. Those are the ones that I don't quite understand how that money works out, how that affects your luxury tax and things like that. Because he lives in Washington, I think. So that is not subject to Los Angeles taxes or to California taxes. So that's a huge lump sum. I don't know. I'm not an accountant or economist, but it seems like the Dodgers are once again like one step ahead of everybody else with figuring out ways to get these talented players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I think that there's some sort of tax if you work in LA or something. I'm sure there's some California loophole when it comes to taxes because they figured out a way to drive costs for everything. So the other thing I wanted to mention too was the A's. Now they're known as the A's, so we can't call them. They're not the Sacramento A's. They're the A's, which is whatever. So the A's new ballpark stadium will cost their new ballpark will cost them $250 more than originally projected, but it is expected that John Fisher is expected to share. Is supposed to pick up the tab. Wrong. I don't see that happening.
No, they're never going to play in Las Vegas.
Yeah, John Fisher's going to weasel his way out of it. I really think that it's so. Their U.S. Bank and Goldman Sachs are loaning him $300 million for construction costs, while the public sector's chipping in $380 billion. So they're hoping that he's supposed to recruit the minority equity investors, but his family will contribute as much as he said. Him and his family will contribute as much as $1.1 billion.
Yeah.
They said that it's up to 1.75 billion or whatever, and they still don't have any of the fun casino related ideas that I wanted. More dice, but no, I don't think they're ever going to play in Las Vegas. We'll see. I just the thing I was joking. I'd like to see the Oakland A's end up in Tampa, and Tampa end up in Oakland, just for fun. But
yeah, Tampa's got their own stadium situation right now. They have to rebuild their whole stadium, and they're coming to a decision on that too. And wouldn't be surprised if the Rays might end up not being in Tampa for too much longer because I think the stadium people are like, psych, no, we're not going to do it. They're not going to put the cost. So it's interesting, the dynamics of that. And then you're the A's, you're going to be playing a minor league stadium that seats about 14,000 people. Nice.
Yeah. Still ain't going to sell out.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But, it's just like a Coyote. It's just like the Coyotes in the NHL. I don't know. I love the idea of the A's ending up in Tampa, though, because it's not like anybody goes to the games in Tampa anyway. So,
yeah.
I mean, it works out perfectly. And the Rays are better. They deserve better. So I think that works perfectly. Flip the fan bases around, and I think everybody will get what they want.
Well said here. That man is going to contribute $1 billion and he can't have a payroll over 100 million for his own team. Well said, because it's dead spot on with that. As far as the Rays attendance last year, good question.
I think it was about 14,000.
Really?
So they could fill the minor league stadium. I think we figured this out.
Let me see. I'm looking it up.
I got Tampa at 16,500, 28th. They were only trailed by Miami and Oakland. Miami had 13.4 and Oakland averaged 11,500 fans.
You pissed off the Cuban population in Miami who love baseball. So, yeah, it's when you do that, I mean, Cubans are not even coming to baseball games. That's their national heritage.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Yeah.
I would imagine that people who are gung-ho for baseball in Nashville and Charlotte and Portland probably feel like they got, the next 3-4 years could yield something.
I don't think baseball will work in Portland. Now I've been out there a few times the last few months, and minor league baseball hasn't worked there. I've tried it 3 times, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it will work again. I don't think major league, even if it's a major league franchise, although I know the area out there is good about sports. Like the Trailblazers get a lot of support. The Pacific
Soccer
Northwest. Pardon me. Oh, the soccer. Yeah, the Timbers do really well attendance wise. Good call there, Uper. That's a good area. Like Seattle as well for the soccer team for MLS does really well. The Sounders do really well too. It's not that they don't support it. I just don't. Portland's also gotten fair share of crime issues that, unfortunately, I mean, you're seeing crime rates skyrocket there in the last decade or so. But you look at the infrastructure, I don't know where they would fit. Like already, where would they fit and where would they be? I don't know. Charlotte, I think Charlotte, like I just was in Charlotte too. It's a beautiful city.
It is.
And I think Charlotte would be an ideal franchise. They hosted the Hornets / Knights, the White Sox AAA affiliate. Fun fact that they were the Hornets in the 60s before they became the Knights. But I think that, and as much as Iowa is the perfect baseball state to have a team, unfortunately, they don't have any TV revenue. And that's where baseball wants to be. They want that TV revenue, although you wouldn't be able to watch them anyway.
No.
And I've heard Salt Lake City too is a possibility. Right now they just got the hockey team. They got the Coyotes, and now they're just a Utah hockey club, which is, either way, that the stadium they're playing in right now. Are they playing at the Delta Center? Is that they're playing at where the Jazz play?
Don't know.
I don't even know, man.
Okay.
I'm so far out of hockey.
Yeah. Hockey's not, I'm wearing a Winnipeg Jets hoodie, but that's just because I love this logo. Is one of my favorites of all time. I love this logo.
Yeah, the Jets have some real good gear.
Yeah, Jets are fantastic. I want to get one of their jerseys, one of their hockey jerseys. But
yeah.
Either way, is there anything else you guys want to wrap it up to before we're hoping next week during the winter meetings that we'll have some hot stove conversation. Where I'm hoping also we've been reaching out to a couple people, hopefully for you that I'm on the minor league podcast or on here. But was there anything else you guys wanted before we end the evening?
I don't know.
Everything.
Just can't wait to break in with the Nate Eovaldi signing.
Yeah, or we're gonna break down the signing of they're gonna come out of nowhere and sign Jeff Hoffman, or they're gonna bring back Carson Kelly on a good deal or something. It's gonna be something like that, or
Vlad Guerrero Jr. is your next first baseman.
Yeah,
Swing a big trade.
Trevor Williams from Washington.
Well, quick question for Chris.
Mm-hmm.
From your art, from the piece that you wrote.
Yes, sir.
If you had to pick one, which one is it that you would like to see? Boy, that happened.
Yeah, I think I would probably go with the Matt Shaw trade. And in that, I kind of like the Kobe Mayo for Jackson Jobe one too.
I didn't hate that at all. I thought that was kind of inspired.
but yeah, one of those two deals. The veterans don't inspire me all that much. And I'm not super big on Relvis Martinez either. But yeah, Matt Shaw. You never know. Like any hitting prospect is risky too. But I thought, the Cubs took another third baseman in the draft last year, and he's already in Double-A, Cam Smith.
God,
And
that guy's a beast.
Matt Shaw does a little bit of everything. He can play second. He's filled in it short a little bit. I wouldn't trust him to be a regular shortstop. He can play third base. He's got some power, got some speed. Right-handed bat. I just thought he would be a nice fit for what the Tigers have going right now. And I don't know if they would take that deal for him. If you saw it, I said they would trade Matt Shaw for Kyler Montero and Jaden Ham. So one of the Tigers' top 10 prospects and one of their young big league starters. And who knows if they like either of those guys, but it felt kind of close to me. So I don't know. That was the one that if they were to do that, I'd be like, hey, that's fun.
Yeah, that would be.
And
I love that idea. That was one of the most original ones you had there. I mean, all of them were original, but I wasn't expecting that one. That was the one I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, and the Kobe Mayo one. I mean, they're both Kobe Mayo and Jackson Jobe are both top 10 prospects in baseball. And I just thought, that's a big power hitting right-handed batter who technically plays third base. I know there's some people who think he's going to have to move to first base, which would not be ideal. But I don't know. Just I don't think they're going to trade Jackson Jobe. I think they like him a lot. I just thought, hey, have some fun with it. You can go build another Jackson Jobe. But yeah, and I encourage people to go read that if you want to read some fake trades.
Yeah, please go to tigersml.com. There's also a free agent piece that we have out there as well. And I'm actually going to get off the schneid a little bit and write for the first time in a while. It was interesting. I was sharing a story with Uper earlier about something that happened that cracked me up a little bit because I'm not going to go into greater detail about it, but let's just say the disrespect is real. And it was the thing I showed with you earlier, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's funny.
Anyway, and we have our tool series continuing.
Yes.
The defense will be coming up soon.
Yes, and we'll be doing pitching too as well. So I'll be, like I said, getting back off the schneid and getting back in the swing of things a little bit. So all the great content over at tigersmlreport.com. If you'd like to donate, there's our PayPal link that has been scrolling by. Please like and subscribe to our channels. Like I said, the Motor City Metrics is going to go through some changes. Same thing with the website, but more on that next week. Hopefully we'll have an announcement next week too on some changes that are coming to the website to streamline, provide more content. So again, hopefully the Tigers are doing something and we can talk some more baseball. And until more likely we'll be doing a show next week because I'm guaranteed there'll be a flurry of activity. So for myself, Chris, Uper, and Mike, stay classy, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a good week, everybody.